Hello everyone, I'm JG. Welcome back to Music Forever, where today I am reviewing the new Deep Purple album, InFinite. Now before starting this review, I just want to say I am finally using a new camera for my videos now. I mentioned in my last review that my old camera broke and I had to borrow one of my family members to record that video. But now it's finally here, my new camera that I ordered. And, this is going to be a big thing moving forward for the channel because it is a better quality camera than what I had before. The old one was just actually just a digital camera that happened to record videos. This is an actual video, camera. It's not the best thing in the world, but better than what I had before. So that's going to be good moving forward with the channel. And if it looks different than before, now you know the reason why. Now on to Deep Purple, the subject of today's video. And all I can say really is, if you're unfamiliar with Deep Purple at this point, where have you really been? They're one of the biggest rock bands and heavy metal bands in the world, really. One of the founders, really, of the genre, kind of in the late 60s, early 70s, kind of pushing things forward with hard rock, heavy metal, defining the sound of the genre, which is one of the biggest bands in that group, along with bands like Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin. And kind of with comparison to those groups, I feel like Deep Purple, not that they're underrated, but in comparison to those groups, at least, they may be considered underrated. Definitely not an underrated band overall, but in my opinion, at times, they are overlooked when compared to some of those bands I mentioned earlier. InFinite is supposed to be Deep Purple's final studio album. And now, one thing I noticed when, preparing for this review is that Deep Purple has been at it for almost 50 years now. Their first album came out back in '68. So, add 50 years to that, you have 2018, which is a year off from now. That's just kind of insane to think about that this band has kind of been going at it for almost 50 years now. Not, of course, at a super fast pace or anything like that. This is only their 20th studio album, which is, of course, a lot still, but there were periods in there where they didn't release quite as much albums as they had at other points, typical for a band of this age. But now, this kind of being their final studio album, or at least that's what it's supposed to be, they always could release another one, but there are certain expectations going into this project that, aren't there if this wasn't going to be their last album. I was curious to know if Deep Purple were going to move into a direction that was, very final, kind of like the David Bowie album that we got last year, that, he knew that was going to be his final album, and as a result, he kind of made it based around that, or if this was just going to be, like a typical album, that just kind of ends, their career. And, I think it falls more into the latter of those two categories. This album, it doesn't exactly feel, like a super final album. Heck, it closes out with a cover of a Doors song, so, ending your album that's supposed to be your final album with a cover song is kind of a peculiar choice in my opinion, but not a bad choice in my opinion, because I think the cover is good, it fits well within the context of the album, and it's an enjoyable way to close out this project. My favorite track on this album is the opening track, Time for Bedlam, which is just a very nice way to start off this project. It has sort of an epic feel to it. The vocals on this track, at points, they use sort of a vocal effect to it. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it sounds almost mechanical at times. Not, like complete robotic, but, you can still tell that it's a vocal effect being used. And I think it's a very, good usage of a vocal effect. I don't often like, manipulating voices in songs, but I think it's used very nicely here, adding to sort of the epic feel of the track. The guitars here are great. Overall, I think it's the highlight of the album, and starts off this album in a very strong way. It keeps you very hooked into the project. Concerning the sound of this project overall, it's nothing too out there or strange for a Deep Purple project. It's pretty standard. But, considering Deep Purple's sound, I don't think that's a bad thing. You got your typical hard rock sound mixed with some heavy metal, some blues at times, and of course, the band as a whole are doing their best. You got some great guitar parts, vocal parts, bass parts. The keyboards here are very nice. It's typical for Deep Purple, but especially towards the middle of this project, I think the keyboard parts here are very, standout in my opinion. However, while this consistent sound that runs throughout this project may be a good thing if you're a fan of the sound, the only problem I have with it is at times it can start to sound, samey. Nothing towards the middle of the album really kind of stands out from one another. And it's not that any of the tracks are super terrible and that's, a bad thing. It's all pretty good throughout. It's just nothing stands out as being super exceptional, really. The track On Top of the World also features a kind of peculiar, spoken word part or skit, I guess you can call it, towards the end of the track. I'm not the biggest fan of it, really. It just seems a bit corny. But, it's not the worst thing. It doesn't really detract from the song too much. It's just, kind of the weakest moment on the album, in my opinion. The fact that the final song is a cover song, as I mentioned earlier, is also a more, peculiar choice here, especially considering that this is the final album for one of the most influential and biggest rock bands in history and decided to close out their final album with a cover song is a bit peculiar. As I said before, it's not a bad song, but, you know, I would have much preferred if they had closed out with an original, you know, piece. And the song that precedes it, Birds of Prey, is a very good song in my opinion, definitely another one of the highlights on the album. I wouldn't mind if that had closed out the album, or maybe if they had replaced the closing track with something, you know, different, or moved the cover somewhere else in the track listing. Overall, I have to say that InFinite is a good album. I'd recommend it to you if you're a fan of Deep Purple especially. There's really nothing here that you're not going to like if you've liked their previous works, or if you're just a fan of rock music in general. Definitely check this out. Of course, it is their final album, or supposed to be their final album. My only complaint with it really is that it doesn't feel, you know, quite as grand as I would expect from, you know, a final album from a band, you know, this big and this influential. I kind of expected them to go out with a bit more of a bang, in my opinion, more than something that just feels like it could have been any other album in their discography, really. But, you know, that's a small complaint, really, when looking at this album by itself, not within the context of the rest of their works. Just looking at it by itself, it's a good album. It sounds a bit samey at parts, in my opinion, but, you know, it's not, at least it's not terrible music that's being repeated throughout. If it's good music that's being repeated throughout, that's not something to be complaining about. Overall, InFinite is an album well worth checking out. Thanks for watching this review. If you have anything you'd like to say, please leave it down in the comment section below. Leave a like on the video if it's something you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss out on future reviews. Thanks again, and stay golden.